What's up, mobile devs? I hope you're doing well. In this tutorial, we are going to recreate from scratch this beautiful checkbox interactions animation. So as you can see here, we have a list of cuisines and you have the total freedom to choose your favorite cuisine. And to do that, of course, we are going to use Reanimated. So to be fair, I created this exact same demo a few weeks ago for Patreon. And after all, I thought that this demo hides a great opportunity to unleash the full potential of the reanimated layout transitions. And because of that, I decided to share this demo, this tutorial on YouTube as well. So that said, if you're a patron, no worries at all, because I'm going to create a new animation that will replace this one. But after all, I hope that you're going to enjoy this tutorial as well. I also want to point out that this animation is highly inspired by a tweet made by Daniel Kunz. I hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly, honestly. And unfortunately, he left a bit more freedom, but after all, his animation is amazing. And I highly recommend you to check out his Twitter profile because he usually shares a lot of tiny UI demos which are really inspiring. And last but not least, if you're really curious about React Native animations and want to learn more, don't forget to check out my online course at reanimate.dev. So this course is designed to guide you from the basics of React Native animations to advanced techniques. And let's say the best way to achieve that, in my opinion, is to always recreate something from scratch. Because of that, my tutorials are going to feel just a bit slow, but hopefully they are also going to be very helpful. So this course is definitely built on top of animations, and we are going to explore how Reanimated works, how to unlock the full potential of Gesture Handler, and how to build stunning visual effects with React Native Skia. So no worries at all, because if you want to support me, subscribing to my YouTube channel is definitely more than enough. And that said, let's finally get our hands dirty and let's finally move on to the code part. So here, as you can see, we have our React Native project set up with the expo CLI, and actually we are using the blank TypeScript configuration. So in this tutorial, I've also already installed a couple of packages. Honestly, the most important one is definitely Reanimated because we are going to animate the checkbox. Then we have the React Native safe area context. This is somehow optional, but I'm going to use it because I want to access the top safe area later. Then we have the expo font package. That's because I want to use a custom font for this demo. Let's say, of course, this is optional as well. Let's say you can also use the default React Native font. And then let's say I have installed the color package. Also, this one is somehow optional, but I really like to use the color package to manipulate easily the colors in JavaScript in general. So if you install the color package, of course, you need to install, of course, also the types color in the dev dependencies. So since we're using expo font, of course, we are using a custom font, and the one that I want to use is the San Francisco Pro Rounded Bold. And I've added this fonts provider component, which is nothing more than a wrapper around the load async function. And it is just preloading the fonts for the app. And finally, in the, let's say, the app.tsx file, you can see that we have the app container and we are just wrapping the app with the fonts provider, which is going to provide to our app the option to use the San Francisco Pro Rounded Bold font. So let's say, just to quickly recap, in the package.json, if you want, you can just install Reanimated and ignore all the others. So that said, because let's say all the others are definitely optional dependencies. So that said, let's jump back to our app.tsx. So our index.tsx, and here let's use a black color. So the point is that I want to focus first on recreating the basic things about this demo. So I want to add this background color, this text, this checkbox without the animations, and then we are going to add the animations in, let's say, later. So first of all, let's add this string. What are your favorite cuisines? So let's replace this text. Let's say, what are your favorite cuisines? And here, let's define the title style. I want to use a white color. Let's increase the font style. And let's say styles.title. Let's update also the status bar. And since we have added the fonts provider, let's also use the font family, San Francisco Pro Rounded Bold. And there we go. So maybe we can use something like 32, maybe it's too much. 24, that's fine. So let's avoid centering things. Let's add here some sort of padding top equal to 24, maybe 50. And instead of trying to guess the right amount, let's just use the React Native Safe Area context that I've installed previously. So as mentioned, we have this package over there, and this one is really helpful in order to access the top safe area and the bottom safe area. In our specific case, we can use the use safe area insets, and we can access the safe top, and we can add here the safe top. So by default, this value is not going to work. That's because I need to wrap, in general, you need to wrap actually your whole app with the safe area provider, which is imported from React Native Safe Area context. And there we go. So you can see that we are guessing perfectly the padding top. But let's also add some additional padding. And I guess that in the demo, we are also applying some sort of padding left. So let's say padding left equal to 24. Okay, perfect. So let's say that said, we can focus on iterating over the checkbox and building the container view that is going to contain all the checkbox and the checkboxes label. So let's add our container view. So our, let's call it list container. So let's say list container. And here, let's just add a red background color. So by default, nothing is contained within this list. And we need, of course, to pass some values. So at the beginning, I actually forgot to mention that we have also this constants.ts file, which is basically defining for us a couple of constants. So first of all, we have two different colors, the active color that we want to use and the inactive color. These colors are going to be very helpful to build the animation later. And then we have an array of the best cuisines in the world. And as you can see, we are taking the Italian cuisine and we are iterating 20 times to build our array. So, I mean, honestly, there are a lot of amazing cuisines in the world. I was just lazy. But somehow there is, let's say, a bit of truth in this configuration. So let's take our array of cuisines. You can see that we have the ID, we have the name, and by default, let's say all the cuisines have a property which is selected. So this is going to be helpful later when we are going to deal with the checkbox interaction. So for now, let's just focus on the name and the ID. So let's take the, actually here, pilot is probably hearing me. So let's take all these cuisines. Let's map over the cuisine. And let's return the view, which will contain the, of course, we need to wrap the view with we need to wrap a text, and here we can pass the cuisine.name. And there we go. So let's say the list container background color is finally working, and that's great. But I also want to add the flex direction property because we want to pass all of them inside a row, within a row. And I want to add the flex wrap property. So this is going to be helpful in order to handle this, let's say, this behavior. So because we don't want to have just one straight line, but we want to wrap all the data in order to automatically correct themselves in a row alignment. And here, let's also add a gap equal to 8 for now, maybe 12. And let's focus on fixing the styles for this text. So let's define here the font size, which is going to be 16. The font family, I want to reuse again the San Francisco Pro Rounded Bold. Let's add the color, which is going to be white for now. And let's fix also the container over there by adding some sort of padding. Let's add the border width, which is going to be equal to 1 actually, and the border color, which is going to be equal to white. So maybe let's increase a bit the, let's say padding vertical equal to 4 and padding horizontal equal to 6. And let's add the border radius. So honestly here I'm just improvising, so let's say feel free to use the values that you want to. So maybe, let's say that's fine. Let's add to this list container some sort of padding top property, or margin top is fine as well. And there we go. So let's say these items over there are going to be our checkboxes. And because of that, let's say the logic, there is going to be, of course, some logic within this component. So it is slightly better to create a components folder. And here, within the components folder, let's create the checkbox component. So let's say checkbox. Let's just return a simple view for now. So the checkbox will contain, will have a label, will have a checked property, and will have an on-press callback. And here, let's define the checkbox as a React functional component with these props. And let's access all of them. So to this point, we can copy the component that we have defined over there. We can just paste it right there. So let's import the text from React Native. And let's replace the cuisine.name with the label. And let's just export our checkbox. So instead of this view, let's actually use this checkbox that we have defined. Let's say label cuisine.name. Let's also pass the key equal to cuisine.id. And let's just add the on-press callback to avoid some complaints by TypeScript. And as you can see, we are also missing the checkbox, the checked property, which by default, let's just set it to false. So far, everything looks almost good. Let's get rid of this weird background color. Let's try to refactor a bit the styles for the checkbox. So let's import style sheet from React Native. Let's say container, and let's copy these properties. And let's say label, and let's copy this style. So of course, let's say you can see that there is definitely a difference between these checkboxes and these ones. So let's try to focus on fixing them. So first of all, we need to increase slightly the padding vertical and the padding horizontal. And we probably need to increase also the font size as well. So let's say 20 maybe. So then let's increase the padding vertical, let's say 8, and the padding horizontal may be equal to 12 or 14 or 16 actually. So I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. And let's say the border radius equal to 24, 32. And here, let's actually get back right there. So I mean, it is still far from being perfect. Let's say padding vertical 12, padding horizontal 18, maybe 20. And I think it is somehow close. So the padding horizontal looks, I mean, actually I made this animation, I defined these values and I don't remember them. So let me actually, so I think 20, 24. I mean, 24 is going to be fine. And maybe we need also to increase a bit the gap that we have over there. So let's say something like 16. Okay, and it looks nice. So let's increase a bit also this font size. Actually 26. I think it's fine. So let's say to this point, we definitely need to handle the checked property and the onPress callback. So to keep things a bit easier, let's just use the onTouch end from the view, and let's call the onPress callback over there. And let's also try to think about this checked property. So of course we don't want to handle we don't want to have always a white color. We want to animate the color to change the color. And the color will change depending on the checked property. So here, to handle that, let's just add some conditions. So first of all, if the item is checked, the background color needs to change a bit. So let's use this color suggested by Copilot. So if it is checked, actually, so let's visualize the demo. So if it is not checked, the background color is transparent. If it is checked instead, you see there is this almost orange color with a slight opacity applied over it. So I mean, let's just close our eyes and let's use this random color, and we are going to fix that later. And as well for the label, if it is checked, we want to use somehow this orange color without the opacity, and otherwise we want to use some sort of gray. I mean, for now, let's just toggle ourselves the value, and let's fix also the border width. So let's add not the border width, the border color. So, I mean, this is going to be somehow what do we want. So let's say checked false, checked true. So at the beginning of the tutorial, I mentioned that we have already the active color and the inactive color. So let's just use these two colors. So for the border color, we want to use the active color and the inactive one. And for the, let's say for the text as well, we want to use the active color and the inactive color. So here we are getting somehow closer, but we need to fix this background color. So as mentioned also previously, ideally the idea is to have the same orange color that we have over there, but with an opacity applied to it. And fortunately, at the beginning of the tutorial, I've installed the color package. So the idea is that we can define here the, let's say, faded active color, which is going to be equal to color, which is taking the active color. It is applying the alpha, it is setting the opacity equal to 0.1, and it is converting it to a string. So here we can take this faded active color and we can use it. So, I mean, you don't need to do all of that. You can just use this value over there. But the truth is that this color package is very helpful because actually this was an X value and it has converted to an RGBA value, and it has fixed the opacity itself. So it is great, honestly. It is also pretty convenient. So let's say that said, we are getting somehow closer, but we need also to fix, we need to add the checkbox icon over there. So how can we deal with it? Let's add here a condition. So if it is checked, we want to add a view. And within this view, we want to place an icon. So which icon do we want to place? Usually, I always love to use expo vector icons for quick icons. And here we can search for the check label, and you can see that this check circle icon is identical to the one that we are expecting. So we need to import undesign. Let's import it. And we need to import also the component. So let's import the component as well. And as you can see, we are already seeing something. So instead of this color, let's use the active color. And let's focus on fixing the position actually. So in the styles.container, we want to apply the flex direction row. And I guess in this view, we want to add also some margin left option equal to 4 or 12. Let's see for a second this one. So I mean, maybe 10. I'm not going to update it more than that. And then we need, of course, to align the items. So let's say align center and justify content center. And it looks somehow great. So let's say if you look closely, when the item is checked, the let's say the padding horizontal is not identical to this one. So that's because here inside the style.container, we are always applying a padding horizontal equal to 24. So let's control this value and let's get back right there. So instead of applying always a padding horizontal equal to 24, let's say padding left equal to 24. And the padding right will be equal to 24 if the item is not checked. Otherwise, if it is checked, we want to reduce it a bit. Let's say equal to 16 or 14, and I think it's fine. So let's say let's decrease maybe the padding left. Let's say 20. Let's try to reload, and let's reduce a bit the font size and the gap. Maybe this was too much, and that's fine. So far, let's say everything looks great, but we still need to improve the handling of this transition. So how can we deal with it? Let's say, first of all, let's try to handle actually the state update, because for now we can't even tap on the checkboxes and update the styling. So to handle that, let's create a state, use state, let's take the cuisines, let's handle the set cuisines. And here, let's actually replace these cuisines with the state. And in the, let's define also the toggle cuisine function. We are going to use callback. And let's specify here the ID. And I mean, Copilot is crazy helpful for these specific tasks. So the idea is that we are going to use these set cuisines. We are going to iterate over the cuisines that we have. And if it is selected, we are going to toggle the state. So let's pass this toggle cuisine in the onPress function. And we are going to pass cuisine.id. So instead of passing the checked always to true, let's pass the checked equal to cuisine.selected. And if we tap over it, you can see that somehow it is working nicely. So let's say, I guess we need to reduce a bit the icon. And perfectly, it is working great. So instead of using, let's do a minor refactor over there. So instead of using this code over there, let's just create a hooks folder. Let's create the use cuisines, actually .ts. And let's say use cuisines. I'm just copying the same logic that we have written previously. Let's import all the functions. And let's return the cuisines and the toggle cuisine. So let's export this hook. And let's use here the use cuisines hook by accessing the cuisines and the toggle cuisine. So here I probably missed added an additional parenthesis. So let's reload. And you can see that everything is working perfectly. So far, everything sounds great. Everything seems perfect, but of course we are missing the most important thing, which is the animation. And it is crazy how simple it's going to be integrating the animation into this demo. So actually this boilerplate setup was, in my opinion, quite important because the wall setup is going to, let's say the wall setup definition is needed in order to build the animation. So how can we do that? Basically, it's all about adding layout animations. So on my React Native course, Reanimated.dev, I deeply explained in one of my tutorials how layout animations works and why they are always the answer. But most importantly, why layout transitions are magical. And this tutorial is all about layout transitions. So the point is that we don't need to think about a lot of things once we have reached this state condition. What we need to do is that since we want to animate things, we just need to convert this view into an animated view. So the checkbox container view into an animated view. And we need to add here the layout property, which is going to be equal to linear transition. So linear transition is a value imported from Reanimated. There are a lot of different values, a lot of different options, but 99% of the use cases, adding a linear transition is going to be more than enough. And if I tap here, you can see that without doing anything, we have already an animation that is not easy to build at all, to be honest, because let's say, as you can see here, we are not just animating this item, but we are animating the wall list. So I mean, this is, I've done that a million of times, but this is always magical to my eyes. So of course we need to improve somehow a bit the animation over there, because you see this checkbox animation is too quick. But as previously, we can use again the layout animations. So let's convert this view, which is wrapping the undesign icon. So let's convert this view into an animated view. Let's add here the entering and exiting properties, which are always part of the layout animations concept. So we want to add a fade-in transition and a fade-out transition to handle the entering and exiting animation. And here, somehow, things are starting to look great. I mean, let's say the fade-out and the fade-in looks too quick to me. So let's increase a bit the duration of the fade-in to something like 350 milliseconds. And I think it looks great. Maybe actually this margin left was too high. And that's somehow perfect. And last but not least, we want to add some sort of some sort of spring animation. So here we have our linear transition, but fortunately we have a lot of options. And what we can do is that we can apply the springify option. By reloading, you can see that somehow we have this spring transition over there. This spring transition is too quick in my opinion, and because of that, I usually like to update the mesh property. And let's use a value like 0.5. So here, let's say somehow there is something weird on the first render. So you can see that just on the first one, this animation is glitching a bit. So let's just try to center things over there. So let's take all the available space. So actually here, let's use height equal to 24 and width equal to 24. Maybe height equal to 20 and 20, because here we have the size equal to 20. Okay, and that's perfect. So we need to fix a bit the container, but that's more than fine. And I mean, that's it. So the animation was really it, was really about that. So let's say a long setup, but after all, the animation is working perfectly. Of course, we can also add additional animations. So for instance, we can animate the background color and the border color. So let's do that if you want to. So let's define the reanimated container style. Let's use the use animated style hook. And let's say, we have just copied the properties over there. So let's use the with timing option. Let's use the with timing option here as well. And let's add the checked dependency. So if we reload, you can see that we are animating somehow also the background color and the background border. We are not animating yet the text. We are going to do that in a second. So let's reduce a bit the duration because it's too slow in my opinion. Actually, 150 milliseconds should look fine. And let's add also the animation for the text. So we have here the text. Since we want to animate the color, we need to convert it into an animated text. And let's define here the reanimated text style, which is going to use the use animated style hook. It will depend on the checked property. And here we are going to, here Copilot is saving my day. We are just going to use the color condition that we had previously, so checked active color, otherwise inactive color. And here it is using the same duration that we have defined previously. So let's replace this one with the reanimated text style. And as you can see, we are able to animate the background, the border, the width, everything basically. So let's say usually here we are using 150 a lot of times. So usually what I like to do is that I like to create something like the timing config with duration equal to 150. So let's use here the timing config. Let's use here the timing config as well, and the timing config as well. And that was literally it. So I really hope that this tutorial, actually, that was almost it. Such a small detail, honestly. So if you look closely, you can see that in the unchecked condition, the padding left is different than the padding right. That's because the padding left right now is 20. So we need to fix it. And that was it finally. So I really hope that this tutorial was nice. I really hope that you have enjoyed this one. This is a really powerful concept. Honestly, when I use layout transitions, I'm always blown away about their simplicity. Let's say if you want to, I highly recommend you to check out my layout transition tutorial on my reanimate.dev course. And that's it from my side. So that said, hope to see you to the next one.